11th grade and already ruined, my mother hissed, pressing my backpack into my chest like it was contaminated. You don't live here anymore. We're not raising your mistake. HY everyone, my name is Maris Hale. I was 17 when that sentence hollowed me out and handed my bones to the winter. I learned that night how silence slices, how a porch light can look like a spotlight on your shame, how a door, once gentle, can shut like a judge's gavel. 22 years later, that same door vibrated under a relentless knock. I froze with a dish towel in my hand, breath thin as thread. The hallway smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and bread rising, my home's quiet, earned scent. On the wall, the shadow of the brass door chain looked like a thin horizon. I listened. Another knock, louder, impatient. A chorus of muffled voices I knew too well. Blood recognizes its own storm. Maris. Open up. My brother's voice, older now, still laced with the same swagger that used to kick my ankles under the table. A woman's voice followed, bright with performance. We just want to talk. It's important. My mother. The vowels still ironed flat. Important. That word had once been a blade. Back then, important meant signatures, ultimatums, long lectures about sin, a garbage bag filled with my clothes. I stared at the lock I had installed myself, the one that clicked like a steady heartbeat after years of rebuilding. My hands flexed. I thought of the girl I had been, shaking, stubborn, cheeks raw with salt, of the woman I became, steady hands, a quiet day job, something stronger than shame braided through every sunrise. Open the door, we want the child, my mother said, and those 7 words reached through time and dragged the porch of my youth right up to my present. The towel dampened my palm. The dough in the kitchen rose patiently, like trust. I felt the old fear crawl up, then felt it meet something colder. Not rage. Precision. I unlatched the chain with a soft clink. The house listened. The road, the trees, the birds, everything held its breath. I opened the door. There they stood, my mother, lacquered and controlled, my brother, jaw tight, my father, eyes calculating, 2 cousins hovering like shadows that had learned to walk. Their faces carried an expression I'd never seen on them before, need. Where is the child? My mother demanded. I let the cold wind pass through the doorway and into our history. I looked each of them in the eye, one by one, and asked, very softly, what child? What are you? The air between us was colder than the wind. Their eyes flinched when I answered with that question, what child? What are you? Because it wasn't confusion in my voice. It was steel sharpened on years of silence. My mother's lips pinched, a habit she had when control slipped from her fingers. Don't play games, Maris. You had a child. You disgraced us, but we heard the child survived. Her eyes darted to my brother as if passing the torch of cruelty. My brother stepped forward, his boots scraping my welcome mat. We need them. That kid, your kid, is family property. We deserve to know where they are. Family property. The phrase made bile crawl up my throat. For a moment, the hallway blurred, and I was 17 again, standing outside with a garbage bag of clothes, my body still aching, my heart hammering against a future I wasn't allowed to hold. They had kicked me out without food, without a hand to hold, without even looking back. I learned to survive by convincing myself that their voices couldn't reach me anymore. But here they were, on my porch, demanding. I steadied myself, gripping the edge of the door frame. The wood was smooth under my fingers, carved with years of rebuilding, sanding down rough edges the way I had sanded down the screams inside me. I think you're mistaken, I said quietly, each word heavy. There is no child here for you. My father's voice broke the fragile stillness, low and oily. We heard different. Someone said the child is grown now. Successful. We came for what's ours. Don't make this difficult. I let the silence stretch until their confidence faltered. The ticking clock in my kitchen echoed faintly behind me, steady, relentless. My mother's eyes tried to bore into mine, searching for cracks. But all she found was reflection, her own hunger mirrored back at her. You gave me nothing, I said, voice steady. And now you come here asking for something? What you're looking for doesn't belong to you. The porch groaned beneath their shifting weight. I saw it then, the first flicker of doubt in their faces. And I wasn't finished. My brother's laugh was sharp, rehearsed, meant to cover the tremor underneath. You think you can talk to us like this? After everything you put us through? You ruined Mom's reputation, you cost Dad his standing, I cut him off. I was 17. You threw me into the street pregnant and alone. What exactly did I ruin? My life, or the story you wanted people to believe? The words landed heavy. For the first time, they didn't look like a united front. My cousin shifted awkwardly, eyes flicking to the ground. My father's hand twitched, fingers brushing the railing as if to hold onto something solid. My mother, she stared past me into the house, like she could force her way in with her gaze. I stepped forward into the doorway, narrowing the distance until they had to lean back slightly. I wanted them to feel it, that this was my threshold now. You're lying, my mother snapped, but her voice cracked. We know the child lives. Someone saw records. They said your mistake made something of themselves. We deserve. I whispered, letting the word taste bitter in my mouth. You deserve to carry the weight of what you did. You deserve to remember that night you slammed the door in my face while I begged you not to let me freeze. You deserve every silence I gave you for 22 years. The porch light buzzed faintly, casting their faces in half-shadow. Their arrogance faltered, replaced by something rawer, fear, maybe, or the realization that I wasn't the same girl they had banished. My father leaned forward, voice low. Then tell us straight. Where is the child? I let the question hang like smoke, curling, suffocating. My hands trembled, not with weakness but with the force of memory pressing against my ribs. Then I tilted my head and smiled, not kindly, not cruelly, but with a calmness they couldn't touch. What child? I repeated, softer now, like a lullaby turned into a blade. And the way they flinched told me I had just drawn first blood. The silence after my words stretched like a taut rope, ready to snap. My mother's hand tightened on her purse strap until the leather creaked. She wanted control, wanted it the way she always had, but control doesn't walk back into your life 2 decades late. You can't hide forever, she spat. We know. You carried a child, Maris. You can't erase that. I leaned against the frame, the doorway now my fortress. Funny, I said softly, because you erased me without hesitation. Her painted lips trembled. My father's eyes narrowed, scanning me like I was evidence he could still manipulate. My brother's jaw worked, grinding silent anger into the air. But it was my cousin, the quieter one, who broke first. She's not lying, he muttered. His voice shook, but the words spilled out fast. There were rumors, that night. That she lost it. He stopped when my father's glare cut into him like a knife. My mother's head snapped toward him. Shut your mouth. But the damage was done. The tension cracked. Their certainty fractured, and through it seeped the truth they had always feared but never spoken. I let the moment breathe, heavy and deliberate. You don't know the story, do you? You never stayed long enough to find out. You just threw me away. That's all you ever did, discard and forget. The porch felt smaller now, the air tight with their unease. They had come here for answers, expecting me broken, guilty, still carrying their shame like a leash. Instead, I handed them questions that burned hotter than the winter air. My brother tried again, voice sharp with desperation. Then why are we hearing about a child now? Someone's lying. If it wasn't you. I tilted my chin, catching his stare, letting the weight of my silence press him back. Maybe, I said at last, my voice calm as stone, the lie was never mine to carry. And as their eyes darted between each other, doubt bloomed on their faces like a storm cloud rolling in. They had come hunting for answers. But already, they were the ones unraveling. The air grew heavy, thick with everything unspoken. My mother's polished mask began to splinter, a bead of sweat slid down her temple despite the chill. She hated uncertainty, hated not holding the script. Stop playing with us, she snapped, her voice jagged. Tell us where the child is, or we'll. You'll what? I asked, stepping one pace closer, the door wide behind me. Throw me out again? Take something that was never yours? You already did that once. My father's eyes darkened. He leaned closer, his breath sour with coffee and rage. We built our lives on respectability. That child, if it exists, threatens everything. Don't you understand? We need to control this. Control. Always their favorite word. My pulse thudded steady, a drumbeat of defiance. I folded my arms, watching them squirm under the weight of their own words. Maybe the problem, I said slowly, is that you think everything is yours to own. Even me. Even something that never belonged to you. My brother shifted forward, frustration etched across his face. You're lying. There was a child. People don't just imagine that. You're hiding something. His certainty sounded more like begging. And that was when I realized it. They hadn't come with facts. They had come with desperation, chasing whispers, clinging to fragments of a story they'd abandoned before it was ever written. I let a smile flicker, quiet and unnerving. Isn't it interesting, I said, how much faith you suddenly have in rumors, when you never once had faith in me? The cousins exchanged uneasy glances. The porch light hummed louder, as if the house itself leaned closer to listen. My mother's voice broke, brittle as glass. Then tell us, Maris. Was there ever a child at all? Her eyes locked on mine, hungry, terrified, searching for the truth she had no right to claim. And for the first time in 22 years, I saw it. The flicker of fear, not that I might confess, but that I might never give her an answer at all. I let the silence hold her hostage. Then, softly, I said, maybe some doors stay closed for a reason. My words landed like stones dropped into still water, ripples tearing through their composure. My mother's painted face stiffened, but her eyes betrayed her, flickering panic where control should have been. My father's voice cut through, rough and deliberate. You think silence protects you? It doesn't. If there's no child, then your shame was for nothing. If there is, then we'll find them with or without you. I leaned against the door frame, calm as the wood beneath my shoulder. You had your chance to claim me once, I said evenly. You slammed it shut. You don't get to come crawling back because suddenly there's something you want. My brother's fists curled, knuckles whitening. We're family. No, I interrupted, sharp enough to slice through the air. Family doesn't discard you like trash. Family doesn't leave a 17-year-old bleeding on the curb because her existence embarrassed them. The cousins stood frozen, their eyes darting between us like spectators at a match they hadn't signed up to watch. One of them muttered something under his breath, a prayer maybe, or a curse. You've built this fantasy, I continued, my voice steadier with every word. You tell yourself there's a child because you need to believe I carried on your legacy. But the truth? I let the question hang, then whispered, you'll never deserve the truth. The wind picked up, lifting the edge of my hair across my face. Behind me, the scent of warm bread filled the air. My home, my life, everything I had built without them. And in front of me stood the people who had thrown me into the fire, now shivering in its smoke. My mother's voice cracked, almost pleading now. Maris, please. At least tell us, is there something? Someone. I studied her for a long, quiet moment. This was the woman who had once told me I wasn't worth a roof, a bed, or a name. And now, desperation laced her every syllable. Something. I said at last, my voice low, almost tender. Yes. There's something. I let their hope ignite for a single breath. Then I let the blade fall. But it's not yours. The porch went silent. Only the hiss of the winter wind moved between us. Their faces shifted all at once, hope sparking, dying, flaring again like a flicker of a dying match. My mother opened her mouth, but no sound came out. What do you mean, not ours? My brother asked, his voice cracking for the first time. I stepped out farther, closing the door softly behind me. Now it was just me and them under the porch light, the house sealed like a vault behind my back. I mean, I said, that whatever I carried back then stopped belonging to you the night you locked me out. If you wanted a claim, you should have offered a hand, not a sentence. My father's mouth tightened. So it's true, he said quietly. There was a child. I took a slow breath. Memory rose, the hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and rain, my trembling hands signing papers, the weight of a tiny blanket that would never return home with me. The moment my own heart learned to split. There was, I said, my voice steady but low. And there wasn't. My mother's eyes darted, confused. What are you saying? I met her stare and held it. You'll never know. That's the price of what you did. Her breath hitched, and for the first time in my life, she looked small. My brother's anger drained, replaced by a kind of hollow shock. The cousins shifted, unsure whether to stay or retreat. I let the truth, or the absence of it, hang between us like smoke. Maybe there's a person out there who grew up safe. Maybe there isn't. Maybe your rumor is just a ghost you built to excuse yourselves. But either way, they are not yours. And they never will be. Behind my words, there was no malice, only a hard, cold certainty. The kind of certainty forged by 17 years of survival and 22 years of silence. I watched the recognition dawn on their faces, slow and heavy. They hadn't come for answers. They had come for absolution. And I wasn't giving it. They stood there in the glow of my porch light, a broken tableau of everything I had once called family. My mother's eyes shimmered, not with love, but with the sting of realizing power doesn't last forever. My father's jaw clenched, searching for control that no longer answered to him. My brother's bravado had dissolved into a restless shuffle of feet. Even the cousins looked smaller, like shadows that finally knew they weren't the storm, just echoes of it. I didn't slam the door in their faces. I didn't scream or curse or push. I simply stepped back into the silence I had built, my silence, and let the night air close the distance between us. You came for a child, I said softly, my hand resting on the edge of the door. But you left one behind a long time ago. That's the only truth you'll ever own. The weight of it pressed into them. My mother reached out, fingers trembling as if she could grasp the years that had slipped through. But her hand hung in the air, unanswered. I closed the door gently, the lock sliding home with a sound as final as a gavel. On the other side, their voices rose, confused, angry, pleading. But they were muffled now, like ghosts pacing a world I no longer lived in. The kitchen greeted me with the smell of bread, golden and ready. I set the loaf on the counter, the crust crackling beneath my knife. The house hummed in quiet rhythm, the clock ticking, the kettle sighing, the walls breathing peace. I sat at the table alone, but not lonely. I thought of the girl I had been at 17, shivering on a curb with nothing but a garbage bag and fear. And I thought of the woman I was now, whole by my own making, scarred but unbroken. Some stories never resolve the way people expect. Sometimes revenge isn't fire or fury, it's the quiet of a life rebuilt, untouchable. I buttered a slice of bread, folded my hands, and whispered into the stillness. They came for what was never theirs. And they left with nothing.